We visited 10 companies in 9 days. We attended 2 alumni events, which included, in fact, the first Tuck alumni in Brazil from 1972, as well as a day of sightseeing and just some time together.
There's no way you can do business now or be successful in business without taking into account how other countries do business. There really aren't any borders anymore in terms of trade. So in order to be effective in my career, I have to understand how countries like Brazil do business. And that was a huge impetus for me to travel over there with Tuck.
Brazil is still in the last decade, is gaining more momentum and being more respected for its economic half in the world economy. But still, I think there are some people that get surprised to see, Brazil manufactures aircraft, have a major and modern, financial system.
I have actually worked in the emerging markets before. I've worked in both China and India. But Brazil just brings a totally different dimension, I would say. There is a thriving fusion of different people. We have Portuguese, we have Africans, the indigenous Indians, and a huge Japanese community as well. And I think that kind of shaped the culture in Brazil, which is very distinctive.
At one of the visits that we had with Odontoprev, which is one of the largest dental insurance carriers in Brazil, I remember they started out with a presentation and one of the students raised their hand to ask a question, and it was a really insightful question. And after that, the presenter sort of opened up the conversation to getting feedback from the students. I think he'd recognized their quality as leaders and sort of left his slides aside. And so I was really proud of the Tuck students, and I enjoyed sort of seeing how they view the world and the things that they're curious about.
One class that we take here at Tuck in particular, Global Economics for Managers, it gives you a really good toolkit in terms of evaluating kind of macroeconomic trends and conditions. And utilizing those toolkits within Brazil was very interesting for me because Brazil is a country, for instance, that has very high tax burdens and very high interest rates. And understanding what I understood from GEM helped me understand how that affects businesses and how businesses respond to those macroeconomic conditions. And it really helped me understand at a base level why a company like EBX, for instance, sees value in controlling everything in their supply chain from upstream to downstream. In the US, a mining company would never build a port to kind of utilize in their own operations. In Brazil, it's commonplace and it's also very profitable.
We get to know the professor in our classes, but I think traveling with a professor on a track really allow us to interact more actively with the professor. It's a wonderful time because on one hand, the professor brings an expert perspective on her subject. We had Professor Robinson, so the kind of questions she asked in the company visits around accounting and corporate governance were really enlightening. And on the other hand, through the interactions, we became more like friends, and I think that speaks to the Tuck culture, that this is really a place for us to work, study, and interact and be together as families and friends. And that extends to the professors as well.
It's a very rare opportunity to be able to visit a country and speak to that many companies. So I think the most important thing to get the maximum value out of it is to go in with a totally open mind and try to understand what their motives are behind their decisions, how people interact within the companies, and the cultural influence that kind of dictates these interactions and these decisions.